you said before that the housing market is in a depression. And if this is somewhat of a recovery, why aren't more Americans feeling it?
Well, a lot of Americans are feeling it. I mean, but the housing market is the one big element that still remains in a depression, not just a recession. It will come back.
Still in a depression.
Well, it still is. When you're building 600,000 housing units a year in a country like ours, that is depressed. So that affects our brick business, affects our insulation business, it affects our carpet business, and every place else we see pretty robust activity. But in those areas, they haven't come back yet, and our employment in those areas is probably down 20% from the peak. So in effect, in those areas, we have 20% unemployment.
The Buffett rule did not get the support it needed in the Senate. Do you think that the Buffett rule, or even the idea of it, because many people see it differently, say, than you yourself do, is it dead for good?
No, it's not dead for good. I mean, people are bothered by the inequality and the lack of progressivity and for the ultra-rich in the tax code. So something will happen. It may not be exactly the way the bill that went to the Senate in that form, but Americans are not going to be happy in a world where the 131 of the 400 largest incomes in the country, averaging $270 million, those people had tax rates at 15% or below. And I don't think the American public understand that, but to the extent that they get that message, they'll want something done about it.
It's not going to stick around even if Romney's in the White House?
I think it'll happen.
All right. Who will make a better president for the economy and the predicament it is? Barack Obama or Mitt Romney?
Well, I think Barack Obama. I mean, he's my choice. I think the American economy is going to do well in the future, though. I mean, it's for 200 years our system has worked, and we haven't lost the secret sauce. We go off the tracks occasionally. Capitalism overshoots. We have bubbles, all that sort of thing. But in the end, we keep finding ways to unleash more human potential.
But just this week, Mitt Romney came out and blasted the president, saying, look, what you're doing for job creation simply isn't enough. Is he right?
Well,
or is the president doing everything that can possibly be done?
He's doing sensible things, and that's going to be the election. They're going to be blasting each other a lot of things.
So if Mitt Romney were to become president, I know he's not your choice. He's going to push for lighter regulation on businesses. He's going to push for repealing what he calls Obamacare. Would that be fundamentally better for American business, large and small? Could it be?
I think it would. I think it will depend. I mean, obviously there are some regulations that don't make sense, but there's other places where more regulation is needed. So I don't think there's a way to make a blanket statement on that.
We've got to talk about Europe, obviously, with the key elections and what happens in Europe, specifically in France, specifically in Greece. And really the U.S. in this recovery hangs in the balance. And I don't think people pay enough attention necessarily to what's happening over there. What is your assessment of the situation in Europe? How concerned should we be here in the United States?
Well, they have huge problems that have yet to be resolved. But Europe isn't going to go away. I mean, Europe will be producing more goods per capita 10 or 20 years from now, but they have huge problems to be resolved. They took on a common currency, and they do not have common fiscal policies. They do not have common cultures. And when you have the common currency and they have the bonds of some countries, major countries, yielding close to 6% and others below 2%, you know that you got a big problem.
So pay a lot of attention to Europe.
Oh, sure. On the other hand, it doesn't make me bearish about the United States.
No matter what happens.
Well, I think obviously the greater the ease with which the Europeans solve their problems, the better off it is for us. But we are not dependent. Our economy is not dependent on them coming up with a wonderful solution soon.
Let's talk about super PACs. With a man who has quite a lot of money, you could act like, say, Sheldon Adelson, and you could put a lot of money behind one candidate. At the same time, you clearly disagree with the Citizens United decision. You disagree with super PACs. What kind of influence do you think Warren super PACs are making in this election? And frankly, our political system, do you think it's damaging?
I think they're a terrible force. I mean, I think that they lead toward a plutocracy because you get huge amounts of money, and huge amounts of money don't appear in politics without consequences. And super PACs, by their nature, are probably going to focus on dubious arguments and negative advertising, and I won't contribute to one.
You won't, but do you think that they're going to drive this system?
I think they can be an important factor in this election, sure.
All right, fun one for the last one. Facebook. Is Facebook a company that Berkshire or you personally would put your money into?
Well, we never buy a new offering. I can't recall in my life buying a new offering. The idea that something coming out, we'll say on a Monday, that's being offered with significant commissions, all kinds of publicity and everything. The seller electing the time to sell is going to be the best single investment that I can make in the world among thousands of choices. It's mathematically impossible. So we're not a buyer of new issues.
But even at this time, you said, look, even at Google and Apple now, you wouldn't be a buyer, but you wouldn't short them either.
I wouldn't short them either. No, I wouldn't short. I would not short Facebook. I would not short Google. I would not short Apple. They're fantastic companies. But in terms of what they'll be worth 5 or 10 years from now, I just don't know.
All right, Warren, thanks.
Thank you.
Are you on Facebook?
No.